All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order February 1st, 2024, Ascension Parish Council meeting. And I'm going to ask Mr. Arsenault to please lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Lord, thank you for another wonderful day, God, another opportunity to serve our neighbors and serve you, Father. We pray that you bless this meeting, give safe travels as we head home, and bless our decisions here tonight. In your name we pray.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Arsenault. Item number 2, roll call. Ms. Secretary, we are missing Mr. Joseph, Mr. Robert, and Mr. Turner. Everyone else is present. Chair's edition. I do have a chair's edition. It will take a unanimous vote of the council, but what I'm going to ask is that we move agenda items. I'm sorry, let me find where we at. Item 8H, J, G, and I, and we are going to place that at item 6A1 of general business. It'll be the first agenda item after the parish president's report. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to do so. I have a motion by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Cullen. Any objections? Hearing none, so moved. All right. Item number 4, the public comment sign-in period. If anyone would like to speak on any of our agenda items, please come up to the podium. We have red and green cards. Fill that out, and you can walk up right here and hand it to us. And whenever we get to that item, I will call you up. You have 3 minutes to speak on that item. Item number 5, the parish president's report. Mr. Quintmall. Oh, Mr. Compton.
Our parish president is feeling a little under the weather, and so I agree to do this presentation tonight. I'm going to read a proclamation. Whereas Ascension Parish proudly recognizes the outstanding achievements of its youth, Caden Tullier, a 16-year-old East Ascension High School sophomore, has been named to the U18 USA Women's National Softball Team. Caden has excelled as the starting varsity third baseman, earning honors as first team All-District, All-Metro Defensive Player of the Year, and Newcomer of the Year with a 3.83 GPA. As a former U16 USA top performer, she now represents Region 4 in Louisiana in the WBSC World Cup stage event in Dallas, Texas in August 2024. Off the field, Caden dedicates time to practice, training, community service, and mentoring young girls in softball. Her dream of collegiate play and owning a sports training facility serves as an inspiration. Now, therefore, I, Clint Quintmont, Parish President of Ascension Parish, hereby proclaim heartfelt congratulations to Caden Tullier for her extraordinary accomplishments and present her with a key to the Parish of Ascension.
Come on up, Caden.
Can we get a picture?
Yes. while they're taking a picture, I look, I don't want to take too much credit. I know we're cousins, but she did this on her own, so I'm proud of you. Even though you wear the, even though you wear the blue and gold, you know, that black and gold would suit you a lot better.
Still trying to get over that one, Jay.
Thank you so
Congrats to you.
much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I would like to add that she is the granddaughter of our proud parish employee, Brother Babin. So, again, congratulations. And Juancita Babin, sorry, in our finance department, sorry. Brother yelled at me, you didn't. So, I'm sorry. So I'm now going to hand it off to Pam Matassa, our Director of Communications, to give a quick story about our trip to D.C.
How are you, Miss Pam?
I am Miss Pam. Hello, everyone. I wanted to tell you that key staff, that would be Ruth, Ricky, and myself, and council members Michael Mason and Brett Arsenault represented Ascension at last week's Washington Mardi Gras. At this annual gathering, counterparts from across the state collaborate on community enhancement. And while King Drew Brees led the Mardi Gras festivities, our focus in D.C. was on Ascension matters. The week provided valuable opportunities for policy discussions and face-to-face meeting with some key players. Our team held individual meetings with the U.S. congressional delegation, key staff, the Department of Transportation, and the Economic Development Administration. The focus was on securing federal funding for vital projects, including the LA 327 extension, Marvin Bro Pump Station, levee elevation upgrades, drainage improvements, storm surge protection, and initiatives in education and healthcare. Now, looking ahead, President Clintmaw hopes that we can do this again next year, drawing upon the inspiration from other regions who are all very actively involved in this week-long festivities. Each area of the state is very actively involved. I mean, you've got Baton Rouge, Lafayette, Cameron, Calcasieu, Monroe, St. Tammany, Tangipahoa, Shreveport, and a very impressive list of contingencies well across the state. And we're going to have a complete presentation on our trip and the progress during next month's meeting. And now I think maybe Councilman Mason and Arsenault may have some input on the trip.
I'll go, Brett. Yes, it was an excellent meeting. We met with Congressman Graves, we met with Senator Kennedy, with Senator Cassidy on a couple of occasions, Congressman Carter. It was a very enlightening trip, and I'm very, very excited that I was provided the opportunity to go. And I want to give a personal shout out to the PCARD group for helping set up a lot of those meetings for us. They were a valuable resource for us in DC, and I'm glad that we partnered with them.
I'll certainly echo what Michael said, but one big takeaway was be proud of Ascension. Everywhere we went, everybody was bragging on what we have going on, and so it was quite an experience to be part of the group, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to join you guys on that.
Thank you, Ms. Pam. Okay, moving on to item 6A1, which was formerly item 8GHI. That is reading of an ordinance to amend ordinance section 9-5, sharing of sales tax revenue between the parish and municipalities generated by annexed properties from 50-50 split with the parish and municipalities to 75 parish, 25 municipality split. Mr. Kenneth.
Purpose to amend the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances, Section 9-5, sharing of sales tax revenue between the parish and municipalities generated by annexed properties. Whereas Ascension Parish is a local governmental subdivision as defined by Article 6, Section 44 of the Louisiana Constitution, 1974. And whereas Parish of Ascension is a governing and responsible body over taxation and revenue. And whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish, adopted May 4th, 1993, identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of this parish. And now therefore be ordained by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority that the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances is amended as follows, as more fully described in Attached Exhibit A, attached here to and made a part hereof. Severability in the event that any portion of this ordinance ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision and shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of the ordinance. Effective date, this ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. This ordinance having been submitted to a vote, the vote thereon is as follows.
All right, Chair will entertain a motion to open the public hearing. I have a motion by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Vornado. So we do have several people who signed up to speak. The first is Mayor Arsenault. Parish President, you want to go first? All right, I'm sorry. I'll come back to you.
Okay. Good evening, council. I didn't anticipating because I had tried to pull this item, and I actually thought we had a right to do so. And it's unfortunate that y'all had to make this trip because we were unable to pull it, supposedly procedural-wise, which I don't understand because it seems like we've done that before in the past. Nonetheless, here we are today. So, there's been a lot of misinformation about this whole process, and so I wanted to clear up just a few things that I thought. And again, hoping to have this item pulled, I didn't come prepared with a presentation, and obviously that's difficult to do in the Donaldsonville Courthouse. And so I wanted to illustrate and get this packet together, and then so that I could present the packet to the municipality so they understand exactly what we're trying to do. But I will hit on a couple key points. We've been several legislations that have been done and started back to 2009, which was in the packet that we sent y'all. Was we had done some agreements for 50-50, and then everything after that was supposed to be 25-75, 75% going to the parish and 25% going to the municipalities. And then under Kenny Matassa's administration in 2017, he switched everything over to 50-50. So we're not asking to do anything new. We're asking to go back to the original 25-75. This does not affect any of the existing contracts in place with any of the municipalities. This is only with contracts that are not done currently or new annexed properties. Now, there's two simple reasons to that. We have made an aggressive approach due to the feedback from our residents across the parish, including everyone, of what the most important factors were in Ascension. And it is roads, drainage, and recreation, and spending critical dollars to do that. Most of you know, and we've talked about unfunded mandates. That is the mandates that is upon parish government only to fund. We're standing in an unfunded mandate right now, okay, this courthouse, and all the other facilities for which we have to adhere to. Those unfunded mandates that come and generate out of that sales tax, we are responsible for, but every parish citizen, including municipalities and everyone else, gets to benefit from. Due to that, there was a $4 million increase from last year to this year. And doing that, the DA has stressed he wants more staff. The coroner wants staff. We're talking about getting a new judge. Who has to fund that? We do. And nobody else contributes. That is all on us. And what does that do? That takes money away from the critical projects that are most important to the parish residents that we represent, that want more roads and infrastructure, and they want controlled development. And that puts me into my second point. Oftentimes our requirements are stricter than the municipalities, if you want to look at densities and requirements and all those things. So when property is annexed, you can take Conway subdivision, for example, of that magnitude, what that does to existing infrastructure. If we're to grow responsibly, there should be some offsetting contingency to that. And so, because we have the unfunded mandates, because we're trying to grow responsibly with balanced infrastructure, that is the reason why we want to go back, not create new, go back to the original 25-75. And so we're not asking to do anything new. We're not asking to change any of the existing contracts that are already in place. Just anything that is not done, we go to the 25-75 as it was before the Kenny Matassa administration changed it to the 50-50 in 2017. So I wanted to make sure that was clear because that's important to note. And we're going to work on an annexation map to show you all the projects that have all these. That packet is being put together. We wanted this to be pushed to the March 2nd meeting, giving a full month for me to get the packet to the municipalities, call them, discuss it, and that was my attempt to pull this item before we had to get up and do comments and everything else because we don't have all the factual information for you to see. That's why I didn't want comments. That's why I wanted to pull the item, because of the amount of misinformation that was going around from all the phone calls. So, happy for our colleagues in the municipalities and elected officials to get up and speak, but I just want to make sure that you know there is a packet being put together with all that information, examples, scenarios, so that we will have a full month to review, talk about, and then hopefully make a decision from that point. Thank you.
I do just want to clarify, so I'm very aware the administration wanted to pull it from the agenda. This body as a whole introduced it at our last meeting. From our charter, at the time and place so advertised, at any time and place which hearing may be adjourned from time to time, the ordinance shall be read in full, and after the reading, interested persons shall be given an opportunity to be heard. So I made the decision to not pull it because whether it's okay by state law, ethically and by our charter, a lot of gray area. So I wanted this body to make sure that we do it properly. All right. Mr. Huh? Yeah. Mr. Robert? Look, this is public comment. Let's let them speak, and then we'll start with you when it's our time to speak. It's a public comment period.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having us. My name is Matthew Percy. I am currently the City Attorney for the City of Gonzales. You'll see to my right a contingent of some very well-dressed gentlemen. You've got council members from the City of Gonzales, as well as the three respective mayors of the three municipalities that are located within the Ascension Parish limits. I appreciate the parish president's comments. I would like to note that we are open. I know, speaking on behalf of the mayor and the City of Gonzales, all we ever wanted was a conversation to occur regarding any change to this specific ordinance, and we were not made aware of this change to the ordinance except by way of just finding out via a published agenda. No one was ever notified. I'm glad to hear that there is now a want for everyone to sit down and talk about this. It's a very important ordinance. When you're talking about taxes and how they're used, I understand the parish has obligations that include the DA, the courthouse, et cetera. But the cities, they provide services to citizens also, and those citizens are paying the same tax. One of the issues is what is a proper percentage, if not 50%? 75-25 is actually an arbitrary number. There's no basis for 75-25. If you're going to look at percentages, then you should look at what is actually being spent to the benefit of the cities and or the parish. I would like to direct you, as I wrap up here, state law encourages, while it's not required, they encourage these types of tax sharing agreements so that citizens within the municipalities are not double taxed or are not getting less than they should, or the parish getting more than it should. That's the exact purpose of state law regarding these types of sharing agreements. 50-50, you don't get much more fair than that. In fact, it is 50-50, okay? If you look at your section 9.5, your ordinance that you're going to be amending today, I don't want to point you to the language of the actual ordinance. What I want to point you to is the preambles of that ordinance, which was passed in May 7th of 2009. And I want you to listen to these words. Whereas Ascension Parish collects an undedicated 1 cent sales tax in Ascension Parish Rural Sales Tax District Number 1 and a 1/2 cent sales tax in Ascension Parish Sales Tax District Number 2, and whereas municipalities within the parish also collect sales tax within their respective incorporated areas, and whereas these municipalities periodically annex property at the request of the property owner into the incorporated limits in order to provide certain services to the property, and whereas the parish believes, you, the parish, at the time in 2009, believed that the imposition of sales tax in annexed areas by both the parish sales tax districts and the respective municipality may discourage business growth, adversely affect land use, planning, and subject parish citizens to increased taxation on the purchase of goods and services, and whereas parish government, you, duly elected council members, parish government believed at that time a sales tax sharing plan is essential to ensure the continued development of business within the parish and the orderly and appropriate development of land both within the parish and within the municipalities. Those are your council's words. That is the parish speaking. My question to you is, what has changed now? The mission should be the same. You should be sharing the taxes 50-50, and if you're not going to share them 50-50, then there should be some sort of economic study to actually break down what percentage should go to whom. And with that, I'm going to close, and I appreciate you having us tonight, and thank you for considering removing this from the agenda before at least my mayor for the city of Gonzales, Barney Arsenault, has an opportunity to meet with some of you so that you can understand some of our concerns as a city in regard to our budget and what we pay for that may benefit the parish in some way. There are numerous CEAs between the parish and the city of Gonzales, and there's no reason to start picking and choosing which ones that the parish is going to back out of. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Person. All right, next up, let's see, we have Mayor Leroy Sullivan. Would you like to speak, Mr. Sullivan? Okay, thank you. We have Mayor Guidry from the town of Trento. Okay. Mr. Arsenault, you want to speak real quick?
Thank you, gentlemen, for allowing us to be here tonight, Mr. Chairman, Councilman. The only thing I want to say is just to touch on what our attorney just said. There are a lot of things to discuss here, and we got a lot of new folks up here. And I would invite you, Mr. Chairman, if you want to appoint somebody, but I'm inviting you to come by or meet anywhere. I think there's a lot of things we need to discuss here, a lot of things that's a little bit convoluted. So we need to discuss these items so we all can understand a whole lot better. It's true fact. We didn't know anything until we read it in the paper or a couple of phone calls. So we just need to know, if we're going to have good government, let's communicate. That's the main thing, I think, between all of us as elected officials. Let's communicate. Thank you very much.
Mr. Scott Bird.
Again, a little taller than the mayor. I want to thank you guys for having us here again. And I know I appeared before you at the last time at the introduction of this ordinance. My name's Scott Bird. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for the city. So, as you may recall, the only thing that I asked at the last meeting when I was up here before you is that we continue this thing so that we would have the opportunity for you as the governing authority for the parish to have the opportunity to meet with our governing authorities, you know, for the municipalities within the parish. And so, you know, I'm really thankful that we're going to have that conversation. I can tell you definitively that we were unaware that this ordinance was going to be introduced until we saw it on the agenda. And after multiple calls, we did receive a phone call finally, and I requested in that phone call that we continue it. And I was told, no, we're moving forward. I have the votes. And that's it. What else you got? And so I'm glad that we're going to have a conversation. This is a complicated issue. It's not something that should have been presented to you without giving you a lot of information because there are a lot of facets to it when it's taken into consideration of the whole when you talk about services that are provided. So, you know, again, these agreements date back to 1987. We've entered into multiple intergovernmental agreements, and I don't know what has changed. As Matt Percy said, I don't see any reason why we would change the existing agreement. And I think when you know all of the facts, that you will agree with that statement. But again, thank you for taking the time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Bird. So I do have a few more people who filled out cards, but they do not wish to speak, but I will read them into the record. Mr. Brandon Boylan is present, and he is not in support. Mr. Tyler Turner is present, does not wish to speak, and is not in support. Mr. Kurt Boudreau is present, not in support, and he does not wish to speak. Mr. Johnny Berthelot, also present, does not wish to speak, and is not in support. Mr. Falcon Meir present, not in support, does not wish to speak. Let's see, Ms. Michelle Ashby, present, does not wish to speak and is not in support. And Mr. Harold Stewart, also present, does not wish to speak and is not in support. So I believe that is it for public comment. Oh, Mr. Rowe, let's close public comment and then I'll go to the council. Motion to close public comment by Mr. Mason and seconded by Mr. Arsenault. Hearing no objections. All right, public comment is closed. And Mr. Robert, I'm going to give you the floor first.
Thank you, Chair. I made a couple of notes that I wanted to touch upon this subject. From what I understand, this was changed back to 50-50 with the Matassi administration. But previous to that, it was changed, and it was changed before that. So it hasn't been the 75-25, to my knowledge, from what I understand, consistently before that. I feel that changing it to 75-25 is not fair to the most important people that are at stake here, and that is our constituents. We risk them being taxed double, like the Donaldsonville Walmart, which could happen with any annexations coming in. There is a reason that people move into a city. There's a reason that people live outside of the city. I agree the parish is growing. I think the parish is doing a great job in the manner that it's growing. But with that responsible growth, cities also have to grow. Populations go up, so the densities will go up in some of the areas to match the population in the parish. With that being said, the city grows along with the parish. Now, like we were told, there are several amenities within the city that constituents get that they don't get within the parish. And as the president said, there are several things that the parish pays for that the city doesn't pay for within the cut of the 50-50. I think there's absolutely some middle ground there if we need to sit back and look at this situation and look at the numbers and have a real conversation about changing this. But we have got to look at all the factors here. Annexation is a process. There are rules to the process. That's to be connected to the city. There's a few other rules to that process for the annexation. As long as those rules are followed, I don't feel that personally we should make it unfair for anybody breaking off into a city or a city annexing property in the future, as long as the property owners and what the use and intended use of that property goes along with the city and it's attached to the city and goes along with everything else with that. I think that if we have a lot of people wanting to annex property within the parish, there's clearly a lot of things that we do need to work on. I think that we've taken leaps and bounds through the administration, previous council, and hopefully we continue with this council, and improving the development and the growth within this parish. I've been on board with the vast majority of that stuff. But in the same token, we don't want to kill our business people coming into the parish. I don't want to penalize commercial or industrial business for moving into a development that is annexed by having to charge more tax or having to give more of a share to taxes to the parish, and the city still wants their tax. I think that there's a lot of thought that needs to be put into this. I am willing to compromise. I'm willing to change it from 50-50. I want to see some of these changes. I want to see some of the expenses that we don't cover, and let's see that, and we can account for it. I don't think that split will be 75-25, but I'm willing to sit down and look at some numbers. So I feel like we should, sit down and talk about that. I think we should also look at taking some of this code and some of these changes we made
over the last term and continuing to this term with development I mean, there's a lot of things that serve a great purpose, but it also makes a lot of navigating the system of the new guidelines a little more difficult. So I think streamlining those and getting all those together and having more answers for developers will make it easier to where people want to continue to develop in the parish. And I think we should spend more time working on that to keep competitive in that market to want people. So thank you. That's all I have, Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Mason.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this until we can gather more information on it.
Okay, I have a motion to table from Mr. Mason, a second from Ms. Alonso. Any objection? Any comment? Hearing none? Oh, yeah, Mr. Turner? Go ahead.
I'm gonna keep it very short. So we're gonna have
You need my notes?
meetings with the municipalities at a later date, or how are we gonna move forward with this?
Yeah, I think that'll be our responsibility, administrations and the municipalities to work on a schedule for sit-down sessions.
They want to make sure when we do have it, that'll be a part of, because I have a large part of my district is in the city, and I want to make sure that, yes, I think we both need to be in that one, in these
Okay.
meetings for sure. And we could just keep the other turnout to meet, I think it'd be.
The other
fine.
Turner?
Yeah, keep
All
the
right.
other turnout to meet.
I apologize, Mr. Tyler, you were out. I had to take his side. He recently turned me on to pocket squares, so. Okay. All right. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any objection? Any more comment? Hearing none, so moved. Thank you. All right, moving on to the original general business, item 6A, approval of change order number 11, BT Construction Incorporated, Early Learning Center at the Lehman Building, TI Downsonville, for additional work required by State Fire Marshal to add an ADA entry ramp at main entrance for an additional amount of $8,489.37. Total contract amount of $1,696,688.38, and to add an additional 25 days to the contract time. Motion by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Vornado. Any objection? Any questions? Hearing none, so moved. Item 6B, approval of change order number 12, BET Construction Incorporated, Early Learning Center, Lehman Building, TI, Downsonville, for additional work to add wainscoting to infant classroom for an additional amount of $3,223.75. Total contract of $1,699,892.13, and to extend contract time by an additional 18 days. I have a motion by Mr. Mason, a second by Ms. Alonso. Any questions? Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. Item 6C, approval of change order number 13, BET Construction, Early Learning Center, Lehman Building, TI, Downsonville, for extension of time only to add an additional 21 days due to delays in receiving replacement glass for display windows damaged by third-party maintenance. No change to contract amount. A motion by Mr. Vornado, a second by Mr. Mason. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. Item 6D, a resolution to resolve that the membership of the West Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 shall be compromised of the membership of the Ascension Parish Governing Authority pending a change in legislation.
Chair, I've got a comment.
Yes, Mr. Robert.
As a past member of the West Ascension Drainage Board, I've actually thought a lot about this particular situation, because we only had 2 members before, which I thought was kind of pushing it. And in those thoughts, I had discussed with some of my colleagues in the past of a few different ways to comprise a bigger or a larger board. The way that I felt was probably the most advantageous for the sake of the purpose of the board, which is getting the business of the West Bank done. I think maybe the membership could comprise of a member of the city. It could be appointed by the mayor. It could be comprised of 2 council members. We could have one appointed by the president. We could have one appointed by the council chair. it should be comprised of District 1, clearly, because I mean, that's Donaldsonville. And maybe either one or two citizens. We could do one from something with like the Chamber of Commerce or something in Donaldsonville, and another organization. The reason being, I feel that the amount of money in the budget and the amount of business we have in the West Ascension drainage is already limited. I mean, there's only so much we can do. There's not huge decisions that need to be made, or a huge budget like we have on the other side of the river. And I think having some stakeholders involved would really help utilize that budget and help expedite these things. Now, with all that said, I think it would be a lot more advantageous for the rest of the council to not spend their time at West Ascension drainage meetings, especially on the other side of the river, because I think we should probably keep it over here. So that's all I had to say on this particular topic, and I will offer that amendment if anybody would entertain a second on it.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yes, I've spoken to the actual councilman that serves this district, and so he has made his wishes known, and so that is moving towards state legislation as we speak. So without our Councilman Joseph here, I suggest we make no amendments to anything, but we do have to conduct business, and we can conduct business as the whole council until that state legislation is changed. So I'll encourage you to move forward with that item so we can continue to do the West Ascension drainage business.
Can you refresh my memory, Mr. President? If the conversation I remember is that the way that the legislation is written now, it was kind of an either or, either the full body or if what has been for some time now, the two West Bank council members, but Attorney General, right now we only have one West Bank council member, so that can no longer operate. So really our only option at this time is for the full body to sit as the West Bank Drainage District number 1. That's the way I remember our conversation with Mr. John Paul.
That is correct. But that legislation will be presented this year, and so when that is changed, then we can go back to what that legislation, if approved, reads, and then no longer will the full council need to sit.
And I will say the plan going forward, and if and until the state legislation is changed, is that we would host that meeting as it always has been, right before the Donaldsonville council meeting. I know 5:30 is extremely hard, so what we might do is West Bank drainage at 6 o'clock and council meeting to follow, right? Right, and as needed. If we don't need to have a West Bank drainage meeting, obviously we won't have one, but we will try to do our best for everyone's schedule, because it takes a long time to get here from most of our homes. So, that's been in mind as well. But they do have a proposal that they're hoping that the state legislature changes this session. So May, June, give or take, something like that. This could potentially change, but I feel right now it's almost our obligation to serve in this capacity. But Mr. Robert did have an amended motion on the floor. Would anyone like to second? Okay, we have no second. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the resolution as is. Motion to approve as is by Mr. Mason, second by Mr. Petey. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. All right, item 7A, introduction of ordinances. To amend Exhibit A of the ordinance adopting system of reimbursement in accordance with Section 4-04B of the Ascension Parish Charter and in compliance with state law to amend per diem rate from $75 to $125 for council travel. We have a motion introduced by Mr. Mason. A reminder that we do not need a second, Mr. Cullen. All right. Item 8, public hearing ordinances. 8A, reading of an ordinance to acquire 2.28 acre parcel of property located at 49070 Highway 22, parcel number 200399709 for the Highway 22 Gapping Project. Mr. Dupatti.
Purpose to acquire a parcel of movable property for East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District number 1 for the price of $38,000 plus the cost of closing for the maintenance of Highway 22 bridge construction drainage improvement project. Whereas East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 desires to acquire certain movable property, and whereas there is a need and a public purpose for the acquisition of certain movable property for the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1, and whereas East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 does hereby desire to acquire the property, servitudes in all right-of-ways, and authorize the office of parish president to do whatever is necessary to enter into negotiations and acquire said property, and now therefore be it ordained the Ascension Parish Governing Authority authorizes the purchase of a 2.28 acre parcel number 200397009, a property located at 49070 Highway 22, Santa Monica, Louisiana, Parish of Ascension, as more fully described as Exhibit A, attached here to and made a part hereof. This ordinance is being adopted in conformity with Section 6-01 of the Ascension Parish Charter. The purchase of the property is subject to approval by the parish attorney and continued upon the seller being able to deliver a merchantable title. Clint Coimo, parish president, is hereby authorized to sign all necessary documents on behalf of the parish for the purchase of the property. The ordinance having been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion to open public hearing by Mr. Robert, second by Mr. Mason. Motion to close by Mr. Vornado, a second by Mr. Mason. Motion to move the ordinance by Mr. Mason. A second by Mr. Orsino. Any questions, any objections? Hearing none. So moved. Item 8D, reading of an ordinance to amend Ascension Parish zoning map from medium intensity residential to mixed use. 2, zoning ID PZ-3309.23, lots 126, 127, 128, 129, 130, and 131 of Perkins Oak, Part 2 for Thomas and Gladys DeLong, located on the north side of Perkins Road, approximately 1,100 feet west of Airline Highway. Mr. Dupatti.
Purpose. This ordinance amends the official zoning designation for lots 126, 127, 128, 129, 130, and 131 of Perkins Oaks, Part 2, attached legal description from medium intensity residential to mixed use. 2, this rezone is identified as zoning review ID PZ 3309.23, whereas Ascension Parish is a local governmental subdivision as defined by Article 6, Section 44 of the Louisiana Constitution 1974, and whereas the Parish of Ascension is a governing responsible body with a zoning and regulation within its jurisdiction, and whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish, adopted May 4, 1993, identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of this parish, and whereas the official zoning map for Ascension Parish was last adopted on March 8, 2016, and whereas the Parish Council reserves the authority to make changes to the official zoning map by ordinance, and whereas this request has been processed in compliance with the procedures set forth, be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority that the official zoning map of Ascension Parish, Louisiana is amended to reflect the property identified in Exhibit A as mixed use 2 as the official zoning designation. Severability in the event that any portion of this ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision and shall not affect the validity of the remaining portion of the ordinance. Effective date. This ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. Exhibit A, legal description. B, plat map. C, aerial zoning map. Adoption. This ordinance having been submitted to vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion to open public hearing by Mr. Robert. A second by Mr. Mason. Motion to close public hearing by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. P.T. Motion to move the ordinance by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Orsino. Any questions, any objections? Hearing none. So moved. A reminder that we have already executed 8G, H, and I. We are now on 8J. To acquire a parcel of immovable property at 3501 Darrow Park Road in Darrow for the price of $26,000 for parish utilities sewer treatment. Mr. Dupatti.
Purpose. To acquire a parcel of immovable property for a price of $26,000 for the parish utilities sewer treatment plant, whereas the parish does desire to acquire certain movable property, and whereas there is a need and public purpose for the acquisition of certain movable property for a sewer treatment plant in Darrow, Louisiana, and whereas the parish hereby desires to acquire the property, servitudes, and rights of way, and authorize the office of the parish president to do whatever is necessary to enter into negotiations and acquire this property, and now therefore be it ordained Ascension Parish Government and Ascension Parish Governing Authority authorize the purchase of one parcel of property, being lot STP-9 3501 Darrow Park Road, Darrow, Louisiana 70778, located in Section 5, Township 11 South, Range 2 East, Southeastern Land District of the St. Helena Meridian, east of the Mississippi River, situated in the parish of Ascension, more fully described in Exhibit A. Survey map attached here to and made part hereof. This ordinance is being adopted in conformity with Section 6-01 of the Ascension Parish Charter. Purchase of the property is subject to approval by the parish attorney and continued upon the sale of being able to deliver a merchantable title. Clinton Claiborne, parish president, is hereby authorized to sign all necessary documents on behalf of the parish for the purchase of the property. This ordinance has been submitted to vote now as follows.
Motion to open the public hearing by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Vornado.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Mr. Turner, second by Mr. Petey.
Motion to move.
Motion to move the ordinance by Mr. Robert, second by Mr. Mason. Any questions, any objection? Hearing none, so moved. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Robert and a excited second by Mr. Cullen. We are adjourned.